Your screen time isn't just eating into your days. It's literally turning you into somebody else, somebody who you don't want to be. And that's why it's killing your ambition, and you might not even realize it. Bro, most people check their phone way too much and spend too much time looking at a flipping screen. And excessive screen time is genuinely dangerous. And you know, it's kind of unfortunate because the floodgates have been opened. You know, technology, social media and scrolling has been about for a while now, and it's almost become the new norm. It is now normal to spend 3 to 5 hours a day scrolling. It's now normal to spend the whole day, in fact, sitting in front of different screens. And the thing is that when you're constantly stimulating yourself for hours and hours in front of a screen, I mean, you probably already know this, but you are always consuming, you're always reacting, and you're always being entertained. You know, in the most respectful way, you are probably in one of the most pivotal periods in your life right now. And scrolling, social media, screen time is that mermaid, you know, that siren that is just singing out to you, hypnotizing you and luring you to your sweet death right now. But the good news is that you can regain control here. Let me just put it like this. You have two faces, you have two lives, let's say. You live one of these lives when you're scrolling, when you are in front of a screen, and you live the other life when you are actually out in the world. And you know, I like to label these lives as different and entirely separate because this is what allows me to actually understand that one takes away from the other. I don't know, it's almost like when you're scrolling, you become a separate entity. You're not really you. You know, when I used to scroll, I felt like I actually slipped into the skin of some other human being. As in, looking back, that guy glued to the screen was not me. I didn't have my usual thoughts, my habits, or posture even. Bro, back when I used to scroll, I had a different posture. My head was slightly tilted to the side and I was hunched over. When I would stop scrolling or doing whatever I was doing in front of the screen, when I'd finally touch grass, I noticed that my thoughts started to come back. I'd remember what that one person had said to me yesterday. I'd remember that funny thing that happened earlier today. I would stand up straight and I would be back to myself again. I became aware of my posture again. And so what I'm realizing now is that scrolling isn't just a distraction. That is an understatement, a severe understatement. It is a genuine persona switch. You become some other person. And when you view it like this, you might start to see how dangerous scrolling and screen time actually is. Because when you're in that state, when you're doom scrolling, you're not actually you. You know, you're passive, you're on autopilot, you aren't thinking about your goals or anything that actually matters. You aren't reflecting and giving your mind the time it needs to rest. You definitely are not planning for the future. You aren't doing anything, and that's the point. You aren't you. Genuinely, you aren't you. You know, the most important parts of you are just completely shut off. And bro, we already sleep for like half of our lives. So let's say you've got 30-40 years left. You're gonna spend damn near 15 to 20 of those years asleep. And then if you're spending half of your waking hours sat behind a screen, then you've basically halved your life again. So you're only really giving yourself a tiny fraction of time where you're actually present and actually yourself. And this is the point where ambition will die for most people, because ambition isn't just something you have. It's not about willpower, flipping conqueror's haki or resolve. Ambition is something that you develop and maintain. You know, you need to give yourself space to reflect. You need to find ways to keep focused, and you need to keep this routine running long enough to actually see the fruits of your labor. Keeping your ambition burning is a science, it's a skill. And once you learn to harness this ambition sustainably, you will never look at life in the same way that you used to. And so you need moments where you sit back and think, moments where you reflect, moments where you actually ask yourself, what am I doing with my life right now? You know, you need time to journal, time to think and hold yourself accountable, to feed and maintain your ambition. If you're constantly distracted, this just never happens. And that's the fault of your own actions and poor decisions. You know, ambition is a garden that you need to nurture and cater to every day. And so if you're not reminding yourself of your goals, if you're not spending enough time being present and being that version of you that actually cares, you won't just be losing time, you'll be losing control. Again, half your life is gone to sleep. Another chunk is hypnotized and made docile by the algorithm. And so there only remains a small part of you that's actually conscious, that's actually in there in your head, awake and fighting to move forward. Bro, it's like a 3-on-1 fight, because the version of you that wants to sit in front of a screen and engage in all of these bad habits is actually stronger than you. And that's not because you're weak or because you have no willpower, but it's more that bad habits are easy for our brains to default to. They etch an easy path into our brains that our monkey selves will choose 9 out of 10 times. And so when you're tired, when you're bored, your brain is just gonna default to scrolling or doing what other bad habit you're used to. Because when your brain is wired like this, you don't choose what is important, but you choose what is easy. And that is the real danger. Again, you don't just risk wasted hours, you're risking an alien identity taking control over your ambitions. And so the version of you that could have been focused, disciplined, and actually building something meaningful, that version of you doesn't actually get enough time to exist and take charge, to take the wheel. The small amount of time where you are actually you, it means that you have almost no agency to genuinely call the shots, to genuinely lead your life. And so you need to be honest with yourself here. Are you actually in control, or are you just being entertained all day? Are you just on autopilot? Because bro, if you actually want to build something with your life, you need to protect your attention. You need to protect your time. And most importantly, you need to protect the version of you that actually cares. Because if that version of you doesn't get enough time to even exist, then bro, you are just gonna slowly become that one guy who never ended up trying. But yeah, that's about all from me. Like, subscribe, comment, all of that. And check out this video here that YouTube thinks you'll like.